subscribe.
Angry Ops Guy Podcast.
I'm the angry ops guy, hanging by a thread, living on Prozac, the meds from my head, jaded and burned out, ADHD and overdrive, manage your life, running on a wire, I love it, I hate it, I'm past repair, the angry ops guy, just another day.
Welcome back to the Angry Ops Guy podcast. Ops Mike here, and I've got another guest, and I've been waiting to have her on forever, and she is here. I have Denise Bowen, the president of Blue Ocean Interactive, a WSI agency in our network. She's been part of Blue Ocean and WSI for coming on 10 years and is our latest 2025 Q4 top contributor in the network. Denise, thank you so much for
Mike,
coming. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Peachy Keen, Jelly Bean, another day in
Always.
ops, another fire to put out. You know all about that because what people may not know, and some do know, is Denise is literally my partner in crime. She is my other half in the ops world of WSI ops leadership, ops bullshit, and my sanity sometimes of making sure I don't get lost in ops. So we have always kind of said we're a two-headed monster of understanding ops in two very different agencies and two different skill sets, because what I do in the kind of ops mic world is very much different than how Denise is a powerhouse for her agency. And we're going to dig into some of that stuff today. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All righty. So Denise, first off, being a guest and always want people to have their voice. Many people in the WSI network and respectfully in ops, where we try to put this out, don't necessarily know you, despite 10 years in the network. So give me just a little bit of background about you in the sense of, how you came to be with Jason and Denise Gervais' agency, ultimately now being the president, or as I call Madam President, and you don't like, but the president of running the entire agency. Give us a little background about who you are and kind of your journey to get here to running this agency and the powerhouse that it is.
Honestly, it's not that exciting of a story. A lot of it just came down to great timing. I was moving back from Saskatchewan at the time, back to Ontario, and there just happened to be a job opening with Denise and Jason at the agency as an account manager, and started out there. And then honestly, timing has just always worked in my favor. And Denise, Jason, and I have always had a very good understanding, mutual respect, and vision on how we like to run things. And so, as they were looking to exit out, I was looking to grow in my career. And so, those just happened at a great timing and have moved from being an account manager to managing more and more of the team until in 2020. And they made me in charge of the agency, and then have since fully exited out and have left it in my hands. And it just kind of was just so smooth. Um, Not very exciting, but just good timing, and I think a lot of alignment in some ways. So,
Sell yourself short, and you can say not exciting at all, but from someone that's been part of WSI for going on 17 years, I've been in the industry for 20. Very impressive track record in respectfully a short amount of time from where you started and where you are now. Again, being in the top three agencies in the sense of size and scale in the entire WSI network, that's no small feat. So give yourself a little bit of credit there compared to not overly exciting. What we do is not exciting, and there's lots to spew rage about, but I think there's a lot more to that story, and let's unpack it a little bit, because where I met you, very similar to our mutual friend Cynthia Mordecai out of California with Ryan Kelly's franchise. I met you in the WSI Global Convention in Cancun, Mexico in 2019.
mhm.
And I think we maybe said 5 words to each other the entire week, other than, hi, I'm Denise, I'm Mike, and our owners were beacon at each other because they're historical friends. But you were feverishly writing notes about every here that talk about dating ourselves a little bit in an AI world, feverishly writing notes into a paper notepad about everything to
Ooh,
bring back to the agency, and I'm sitting there on my laptop feverishly typing as many things as possible. But that was our
small secret,
introduction.
I still do it.
So,
I can't, get away from handwritten notes, so all the AI software technology in the world, I will still be handwriting all my notes. Thank
but that's what I remember of you is I didn't meet you in the pool. I didn't meet you at one of the
you.
social events in the evening. I met you at a table in the main banquet room, conference room where there was a keynote or WSI person speaking. And I'm at the back of the table, probably because the chair was reinforced with like titanium so I wouldn't break it. You're at the front and there's Jason and Denise. You're Jason and Denise. And then my Peters to my left, and I think probably our friends Chris and Lori were there too. And you got Jason in one ear, write everything down, make sure we bring this back. And Denise is focused on what she's watching and so forth. And then Jason's like, oh, that's our Denise. I'm like, hi, and that's how we started. At least how I remember it.
Very humble beginning. Yes, I know. I don't think we actually spent that much time together, and look at us now, talking all the
But
time. Now you can't get rid of me.
but funny is in we were the two kind of
Mhm.
instrumental up and comers for our agency owners where they saw in their ownership and vision that we had potential to do more than just ops management or potential to just be account managers or project managers, because at that time I was a project manager, like you said you were an account manager or
Yeah,
maybe
managing, I
starting
think,
your
like a marketing
trajectory.
manager. Yeah. I think it was an interesting pivotal time, and it's probably, I mean, I think it's still going on in this, these established tenured agencies are looking for that exit and looking to bring in that kind of somewhat replacement for them as they can either fully exit or just take a little bit of time away. And so we were in that era of the up and coming and with a few others as well. And it's been a nice to have somebody go alongside with you as, we have to manage the oncoming and new responsibilities of running an agency, but also that delicate balance of also having owners and the founders still be involved and kind of managing that as they exit out as well. And so it's been an interesting transition, and there's been a few of us in that similar path and role, and it's been nice to definitely have each other because there's a lot of similarities and I don't want to say issues, but just things that you have to manage as you kind of go about that path.
Well, we even laugh, you and I, when we do get a cadence. It used to be tried to do once every month or two, and now as your life has evolved, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and the pressures of leadership and responsibility. There's not as much time nowadays, but we still laugh that we have therapy sessions, and that's
Yeah.
we call it a catch up, but it's exactly that. What's going on in your ops? What's going on in my ops? What's burning, who's a problem, who left, what client wants to fire you, and it really is important because you are my support system, like Cynthia and others, to feel like I'm not dying in the middle of the black ocean, and somebody can understand the pain, the frustration, the ebbs and flows. I can't get anything done, and like I said, we're very different in our skill set and experiences, which helps us complement each other versus butting heads about talking about the same thing from just two sides, which is kind of what I've always been enamored with you, and not only building a friendship but also a business friendship and as a colleague is to get inside your brain, because the stuff that I am shitty at, whereas
And vice
some
versa.
technical stuff, I can provide value to your agent. We've shared a lot of stuff over the
Mhm.
last 5 or 6 years.
I think too, it's something that everybody in some sort of management position can relate to too, because even now in the roles that need to have people that we can delegate and pass things on to and bring up as well, right? And so, while we experienced it being passed down from the founders of our agencies, I know now, even looking at, okay, I rely heavily on my director team, and what does that look like on having people in the next stage that can take over some of the things that I was taking on in more of an operational standpoint, so that I can do more of the more business um, development and business owner types things. So I think everyone can relate to that, having good people to delegate to and to help them move up. And whether you're the original founder or continuing to move along, you always kind of need those people to be on your side and be on your team that you can continue to pass and delegate and support you.
And you're yes, and our agencies are very interestingly intertwined through their histories,
Mm-hmm.
but also even the dynamics of how they're set up. And I don't mean as focus and strategies or people, but I think what's interesting is that Denise Gervais has his history with working with WSI Corporate before she transitioned into agency franchise life as her life and her business evolved. Jason Gervais, your owner, was mentored in his early days from our agency owner Peter Jasnewski. And so, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jason is about 20 years now with his agency in
Yep.
totality.
Yeah, it was 20 years in 2025. So both Denise and Jason both worked. So both Denise and Jason Gervais worked for THO,
Oh,
and yeah, Jason was
I knew
selling
about
franchise as
Denise. I
well.
didn't know
Yeah,
about Jason. I didn't know that.
Jason as well. And so, and then 20 years ago, they started their own. And so, and initially, yeah, Peter was Jason's mentor. So there's lots of history when you go back that long with a group like this. I mean, there's lots of history there, lots of friendships, lots of trips and stories and things. So it's an interesting, I think, just even being that situation brought us, into the same orbit closer, just because of the founders of our agencies being so close.
Yeah, and they have friendships to this day.
Hmm.
You and I are so blessed to be added to a very kind of closed group of friends that comes from some of the most tenured WSI franchises in the Canada/Toronto area, Greater Canada. And with that being said, they're truly friends. Like we get together, once or twice now a year. Again, some of the people are out in the sense of day to day work. Others are planning their exits. Others are still knee deep in it. But we get together and we kind of say it's almost like family getting together, and that includes Mark Jameson out of Ottawa is in that group, Chris and Lori out of WSI Montreal. But like we get together and it's not just colleagues, it's like hugs and kisses and just how are you doing and there's a real vested interest, which I think also just helps kind of why we also were able to become friends, because I'm not approachable and I'm a miserable bear, and then here you are, doing what you do. But also on that note about kind of our agencies too is they're very family centric. And what I mean by family centric is not just hire every family member or anything like that, but I mean like I believe objectively from the outside that Denise and Jason really look at you as kind of like the third daughter, and they really have a vested interest in you as a person, how your life has shifted and changed both in where you live and now you're a mother. It's not just, well, here's our ops lady Denise and she better turn profit X and Y. And Peter has always treated me since day one like that, as someone that he sees more than just an employee to pay a check, which really humbles me, and I'm sure it humbles you. So it's just a very interesting dynamic about our two franchises or WSI agencies as to how they're wired versus just people.
I think that also can lead to why we've been doing this for as long as we have. I mean, I'll forever be grateful for Denise and Jason for the path that they've put me on. And also, I know it's a mutual appreciation because it's allowed them to exit, fully retire, and be out of the business before they even wanted to be. And yeah, it does feel like family. And they've been so understanding and supportive as, yes, I've moved into a new country and still manage everything remote, and we've gone through all kinds of things together. And so we just have such a great mutual respect and understanding that I think has led to the loyalty that both, I mean, you've been with them for 17 years. That doesn't happen anymore. And so it goes a lot to how you're treated and the kind of environment and culture I think that you grow.
I think I tell Peter once a week where he's like, Mike, guess what? I'm like, you're finally firing me. He goes, nope, not
Not
yet. And so
yet, not today.
I've been trying to get myself fired for 17 years, doing anything and everything to do it, and he just continues to not let me go. And here I am. So
Here you are.
I always said I'm either going to be buried in the middle of the office when we had the office, or I'm going to be buried at wherever WSI puts former employees, because I've been around it's
And
funny
no
when
end
you
in
start to look
sight.
at your age and when you started and who you are now. It's the years are starting to add up, or the miles.
And no
But
end in sight.
you've got a very, shifting gears a little bit, just keeping on you. You've got an exciting milestone coming up this year. Like you said, this is a little bit later this year, as you mentioned to me. This is 10 years
Hmm.
with Jason and Denise's WSI agency. That's tremendous. You know, that's not
Yeah,
little 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, big milestone.
it is. It's been a good journey. You kind of talk back about where you started, and also as an agency, I think we changed so much. And I like to think that I've had a good part of that and been able to lead for a while now, the last 5 years or so, and just kind of they give me so much autonomy and so much um, power in how things are run, managing the team, and trust. I guess it's really just the trust they have in me, and so it's been really exciting to see that and to have it grow within our team, and to see how, through acquisitions and changing locations and being fully remote, just kind of navigating all of that change. I really enjoyed it, and I'm proud of the agency we have now. So yeah, it's been a good 10 years.
Absolutely, it has. And like I said earlier, giving you some praise, to move from where you started to where you are now, you by no means were fast tracked. You've worked for everything you've got. But to establish that trust with people that have invested a lot into their own franchise, and to be able to take that and continue it to the point where your agency owner, Jason, is effectively retired,
Hmm.
or
Yes,
fully out of
yeah.
the day-to-day business, and not necessarily an old man,
No.
75 years old and he can finally retire, or just sell the agency, is a testament to like, I love that word, the trust you've built, because that's really what it is, right? Is, how many agency owners where it's their capital or their money backed on every decision, just say, we trust you to make that decision, or we trust you for the best interest of our money and our agency and so forth. And I saw that from day one, even whether you were a marketing manager there or whatever. You could just see the way you three talked to each other, that synergy was there. And kudos to them for seeing the integrator in you, to the vision that they brought to the business. Shout out EOS again, because that's a theme on the
Yeah.
podcast. But you are their integrator, and you continue to integrate. Now it's yours to grow and expand based on their wishes. Because you hit something very interesting there, is like you said. It's great to feel that they can start to focus on retirement based on where they are in life and not have to worry, which I think is any small businesses owners challenge or fear. And I've said to Peter, as he continues to focus on his trajectory to full retirement, nothing would make me happier to provide and allow him the retirement comfort that he deserves, after how much opportunity and chance he took on me, versus him worrying about who's next, or do I have to just sell it to get out because it's going to be dismantled by somebody I don't rub elbows with or whatever. So I think that's
Mhm.
another thing that, why we're friends, is we're wired that way, is like there is a vested interest more than just making a salary and targets to take care of the people that gave us opportunity when we needed it, or when we were hoping someone would give us a chance.
You make an interesting point about being the integrator, and it's been a somewhat of a shift because very much I'm wired as an integrator. It's how you are as well. It's just how the relationship has always been, with Jason being the visionary. But with him being removed and being in more of a retirement position, of course, there's still some, big picture visionary things, but I've also had to then put on a bit more of a visionary hat, right? And that's really hard to do. I don't know, it's really hard to change that like VI role and let things go as an integrator and have somebody else integrate it, and then also trying to like have more of a bigger picture and visionary type view on the future of the business and your goals. And it's been a trip.
And for some people, it's something you can't learn, right? Because you're wired the way you're wired. Like one thing I resonate, I've said it on this podcast, I've said it on Open Forum when they asked me to talk about, EOS things, because, we adopted it about 6 years ago. I think you're at least 8, 9 years now into
They had it
EOS.
before I even joined, so we're 11 years in.
There you go. So 10, 11 years of maturing your EOS process. But the biggest mind blowing thing out of the book and the language was the difference between a visionary and an integrator, because that's where I kind of found my place in that kind of lost, what the hell am I doing, kind of, moment. And it's like, that's what I am. Okay. And that kind of grounded me. But then it gave me more, to your point, so much respect for Peter, and also understanding him, because in the old
Mhm.
days, why are you thinking about a million things? Why do you come at me with 10,000 ideas? I laugh, and I've even said here, like, he writes things on a napkin and gives it to me and says, figure it out. But it's like, how do you, like, where's that confusion or garbled shrapnel in your mind? But I get it now. A visionary's job is to look so many steps ahead, so many thousand feet above me and you. We're the grounding factor for them to say, this is plausible, this is reasonable. Are you kidding me? No. I said that to Peter yesterday. 95% of the stuff he sends, I just quietly push it in the trash basket. And then he looks at
It's your
me like,
job to.
he
It's your
looks at me
job to
like,
say
you want your
no.
paycheck? I'm like, I'll implement that next week.
No, but I mean, that is the implementer's job, right? Or the integrator's job. Your job is to say no most of the time. I've just had such a newfound respect for visionaries to always be coming up with new ideas and looking at different directions and things to try. And I'm trying and trying hard to shift that perspective and to put more of that hat on, because it's not easy to change, which naturally, like what comes natural to you, to me as an integrator. So it's been an interesting ride to try and shift that a little bit and spend some time sitting in the visionary seat and what that could look like.
Well, it's going to be important, especially with your role now as president, right? And like you said, I'm fortunate in a way to still have my owner as a part of the business, which complements where I'm tactically needed. For, like you said, for you with Jason and Denise removing themselves, I think you'd also agree it's very lonely at the top, and the
Yeah.
top in the sense of leadership, because you don't have any further support above you. So again, you make a great point. You have to move your focus to be the person that has vision and planning and ideas, um, because you have to now in your growth trajectory, and this is what I still have to learn, and Peter keeps saying to me, is like, you've got to let other people be accountable for the tactical work, because your focus can't be in building landing pages or account management or whatever. Now look, all of us wear 7 hats, and that's small agency life. But again, for you to really be successful in your mandates and the targets that you need to achieve, with your team, the leader's got to be the one that's always thinking ahead and planning and budgeting and all those things. It can't be a worker in the trenches. And so it's very interesting to see that. And maybe I'll just ask you, not to put you on the spot, but how is that going based on starting to shift? Like, are you do you struggle with it? Do you really find it as refreshing to get away from what you've historically known or done? Just how do you look at it now compared to even a year ago? Maybe is a fair kind of question.
I would say both. Yes, I still struggle with it. I feel like I need to set out like dedicated time to look at more high level and where things could go. But it is also refreshing. It's refreshing to come up with ideas, and then I'm so grateful for a very capable team that I can pass things off for them to either integrate in or investigate or give me back their opinions of what they think about it. They tell me no all the time too. So and it's okay. I'm
How it
I'm
comes
happy to
full
be told
circle
no.
the way.
It does come full circle, right? I'm getting told no, or that I was actually our last meeting in Ottawa together, and I'm just, sending stuff to the team. Do we do this? Are we on top of this? And I'm like, this is what Jason used to do to me. And it's because I'm not in the day to day. I don't know. And it's
That's
just
it.
such a comforting thing when you hear back, like, yeah, we're on it. Yeah, we do this. Yeah, we do this. And I go, oh, okay, good. Sorry to bother everybody, but fantastic. So I'm enjoying that piece of it. I'm enjoying just kind of skimming it a little bit more and not feeling the need to dive into everything, into so much details, and just looking more about how can this impact us, or how can we look at other ways or new revenue streams, or what this could mean more so for, I mean, let's face it, because it's all the top line and bottom line, because that's what most is driving factors for everything. And so, how can this impact all of that, and have very capable and very smart people tell me more about the details or whether this makes sense or not. So, It's been nice. It's been good. I couldn't do it without our team though, that's for sure. I feel lucky to have such capable people to
How
way
many
smarter than
people
me.
do you have now at Blue Ocean? Obviously, your agency is different sizes and shapes, but what is the operating capacity of your team dynamic?
We're 16 full time, and then a couple part-time contractors and overflow. So 16 full time, and then I would say plus another four that probably work more in a part-time capacity.
Impressive. And to your point, that's why you need strong people. You need that. I call it like the strong lieutenant layer to allow Denise to be Denise. Because if you don't have that layer of people to be the puppet masters and pull all the other specialists of what you need to do, especially when your team gets a volume game, which again, you're double digits. That's more people to navigate, more people you need, accountability, and ultimately, based on the type of revenue and size of client list you have, and we'll talk about your acquisition a little bit if we have time. But you like I said, you need to trust those people because Denise cannot be the puppet master of 16 people and suppliers and any other things that the business needs,
Mhm.
and still report to Denise and Jason at the ownership
And
level.
be the experts, right? Like I don't know this stuff anymore. I listen to our directors talk in our management and they're so smart and they know all the things in their department. I just don't. And it's not realistic to know everything anymore. You just can't. And I think so having really smart people to rely on that you can trust to do your fulfillment and manage your people or whether it's managing your suppliers is so important to have because it's unrealistic for one person to be able to be that knowledge base.
You're absolutely right. And again, the more people you allow to have a voice and to share, you amazed at how smart people are versus just telling them what to do, right? Like to your point, you got autonomy and you got able to make decisions and have a voice. Look at where you are. Other people that may not strive to be, agency leader. But there's a lot of smart people that can build things and take more ownership if you just give them a chance. And, again, we
Mhm.
grew up through that, and it's kind of our duty for the next generation to give those people a chance because otherwise we wouldn't be here, at the age we are and what we're in type of leadership roles that we're focused on, right?
I think EOS, again, not to keep coming back to EOS, but it always sneaks its way back into conversations. I think that's such a key element, though, is that transparency and having people, the whole team, really be aware of what our goals are, where we're at, where we're looking to go. Nothing's a secret and we don't want it to be a secret. And then even more so on our management team, like having even more in-depth conversations and transparency around everything. It's made such a big difference when even on a weekly basis when we started sharing more of the financial numbers and kind of where we're at and the goals of it, everything, everybody can kind of get around and we go, okay, how can we make this work, or we're going to be short this month, what can this mean? And it's amazing to see how everybody kind of comes together when there's just a better understanding of what it is that we're trying to do, which is the whole premise of EOS, right? It's all moving in the same direction. It's helping everybody understand what the business goals are so that we can all help get there. And I've really noticed it. Like the more you open the kimono, or the more as you're more transparent, especially with your kind of management team, it makes a really big difference. So I think yeah, anyone was ever struggling with that to be a little bit more honest and transparent about what your goals are and how you're trying to get there.
Absolutely. Nobody in today's world wants to be misled, right? That's a
No.
different generational tactic of privacy or whatnot, specific to holding things too close to the vest. I'm a big advocate, like you are, that if you can be transparent with people, you can be more open. Again, you're not going to give sensitive material out there, but if they know more about the health of the business, the goals, the reasons why, versus just shut up and do your job, or I'll tell you if you get this or that, whatever else. Like it's like if you hit targets, guys, then you'll be definitely eligible for a performance bonus. But if we're telling you that we're not hitting targets, then there should be no surprise when a Denise or a Jason or a Peter says thank you for everything, but other than everything else you're compensated for in the sense of your employee contract, like there isn't an opportunity here, because if the company's not making money, then we can't put more into the employee fund. So to your point, it's like just be black and white with it, and the right people will follow that as a saying, like, I'm not being misled, I'm not being just for somebody
Carrot dangled
else's
in.
profit gain or whatever
Yeah,
else, because that's where people get disgruntled and then they leave, or they get their backs against the wall. And
I agree. Yeah.
yeah,
If you feel constantly misled or that you just had this carrot dangled in front of your face for years and years and years of the bonus that never comes, or it's just that's not good for anybody. And so if there isn't the profit there this year, then you're gonna know about it because it's not there. If there's no money, there's no money to pay out, right? And so there's no point in trying to have this big smoke and mirrors that it's something different and then disappoint people later.
Well said. So EOS, I expect
EOS
free
always.
sponsorship on my podcast for how much we promote you. Gino Wickman, I want to be a co-author on your next book,
Mm, I think you should
and
come on. You should invite
me and
him.
Denise need some royalties here. Come on. So Denise, shifting gears for a moment with what we have here, what one thing I find very, very interesting about you, and I call you basically the Wonder Woman of WSI, even though you roll your
Mm,
eyes at me. I
yeah.
trademarked it, so deal with it. You are Wonder Woman in the ops land. What's really interesting about you is, you have had a major life change in the last couple of years where your family and your husband's work. There was a decision to relocate into the United States, and you have historically been in Canada. Obviously, the WSI agency that you're a part of, its roots are in Ontario, Canada. Before the acquisition that you guys did a couple of years ago, now you have an office and a team in Western Canada. But you're out of Boston, Massachusetts. And maybe I'll layer a little bit of personal on there that you have recently in the last year or so become a mother. And
Hmm.
so you've got your hands full. So not only are you logistically away from your teams or people between two different provinces, you live in a different country, and now you have someone that needs ops mom. Um,
Yeah.
how the fuck do you do it? Because I'm still trying to figure out after years of being your friend how. So just tell me because
Well,
I'm in proximity to my team and I'm lost daily. And you're just like, yep, in Boston. I'm going to go to Alberta and then I'm going to go to Ontario and then I'm going to go back down and then I got to go there. And I'm like, this woman never ends.
it was easier before becoming a mom, I will say that. But moms do have this like superpower. So shout out to every mom because honestly, how they make everything work is always just mind blowing to me. But yeah, moving to you know what, we were fully from COVID. Our lease was up. We decided to not renew our lease. That was in 2020. It was great timing. We went fully remote then. When we acquired in Western Canada, there was an office there, but everybody preferred to work remote. So we've been working remote for quite some time, and it was kind of just moving to Boston was like just moving to another province. So we have staff in 5 different provinces. We work in 4 time zones. It doesn't really matter. Yes, it's a different country, but we're all so spread out. Um, that didn't make a difference. It really didn't. It didn't matter. In fact, I'm still closer to when we have a management meeting in 2 weeks in Toronto. It's still easier for me to get to than our Halifax guy and our Calgary director, right? They who all have to fly to Toronto. I still have the shortest flight, and so the location piece wasn't as big of an issue. Sure, it means a little bit more travel. I at the very beginning, especially, was traveling a lot back to Toronto or back to Calgary a lot more. Um, but it's just we've been operating so well remotely. I think it takes a lot of intention to make things work virtually as a culture and as a team. And it's easy to lose. Like even I can see the ebbs and flows of when we're really gelled and when we're not as a team. And so it takes, I think, a lot of effort, and it's not something that can just be passive if you are going to have a virtual team. But if you're willing to put in that kind of effort, the pros outweigh the cons. I mean, we can hire based on anywhere we want. Well, you're virtual, so I'm not even who am I telling? You can hire wherever you want. You have so much more flexibility. I think working from home gives you such a big advantage because so many people aren't anymore. There's so many mandates to go back to the office. And so anytime we had a job posting, it was like flooded with applicants who are looking to work from home because it's just not a normal thing anymore. It was for so long, but the market has shifted that if you can put that as an offering, it gives you such a competitive advantage. Um, and then on the flip side, you have to put in the effort to gel your team and to make things work virtually because it's not the same and it's hard and it takes more work and money.
I find it impressive because again, like our team is diversified now through Ontario,
Okay.
Greater Toronto Area, Ontario, to be clear, and
Yep.
it's the widest it's been in kind of the history because everything was centralized around Markham, Ontario when we were there for 20 plus years. But again, just what I even mean by that is it just the transportation for you, and again, I know your transportation and cadence has changed obviously with motherhood and
Mm.
responsibilities, but every time I used to talk to you in the last couple of years before obviously life moved the next step for you and your husband. Shout out Kyle, by the way, even though he doesn't listen.
He might to this one now.
He's going to better listen now. We got a shout out on a podcast of zero. So here we go. But you were always in an airport, right? It like you said, it's like I've got to have a monthly check-in in Alberta, and then I'm going to come back down because you had the office, or sorry, the team here, or Jason and Denise here for management and ownership, and
Yeah,
then you're coming back to your family, and then it's like, well, turn it back around, and here we go again. And it's just like I know that you have a travel bug, and you do like travel, and it's kind of ingrained in you a little bit, but like that's a grind, and
it was.
still be able to be the ops leader and still to be able to be there for client facing and team stuff, like again, hence Wonder Woman.
There was a bit. It was a bit of a grind. There was a couple years there I was like, okay, this transborder thing is getting a little.
Did it kind of come after some time where you're just like, again, irrelevant of motherhood, and coming and stuff, but you're just like, I can only do this for so long. Did you have that reflection point at some point in those 2 or 3 years where you're just like, I'm gonna have to back this off, otherwise I'm gonna kill myself?
Not two different things happened. So I moved the same year we acquired. And so the first year of an acquisition just required a lot, probably the first 2 years of the acquisition work just required me to be there a lot more, just to help with transitioning of clients, transitioning of staff, smoothing things over. Just there was more that needed to get involved. So I was in Alberta a lot more the first probably year and a half to 2 years of the acquisition than I need to be now. And same thing when I first moved here, I was still more actively involved in client things. And so I was flying back for client events. I was flying back for all of these things, which now I have a very capable team that can go to these things for me. And so they go to the client events and they go to the important client meetings and those kind of things. I'm less involved in the client side of things and leave our team to do so. And the acquisition has now just, a couple or few for 3 or 4 years in, it's all smoothed out. We're much more steady. And so it just doesn't
Three
involve
or
my
four
running.
years already now.
22, 3, 4, 5, 4 years.
My goodness. I
I
remember
know.
like it was yesterday when you had acquired and obviously all the work, and then you had a
Yep.
wonderful presentation at that annual global convention with Jason about everything that was learned through acquisition.
That was 2024, 3. I don't know. It was a long time ago,
Talk about the years blurring together as we get older and just the speed
right?
of digital marketing and agency life. I
Yep.
didn't think about that. That's already 4 years.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's
Well,
crazy.
I'm going
So
to
it was
need
good
your
timing for me.
I'm going to need your pass to get through the airport faster, or I'm going to need some tricks because I'm not huge on flying, just in the sense that not at all afraid of flying, but it's just like I hate the airport. I hate the process. It's like herding cattle. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It comes with a patient mindset, which you don't have. So
oh, it only took you about 30 minutes for the first dig. There we go. Atta
I was
girl.
doing so well. I was like, don't insult him on his own
And now the
podcast.
real Denise Bowen shows up. Wow,
I
watch
was
this go downhill.
Oh man, I was trying really hard.
No, I'm not overly patient, and I can be very
No.
irritable. And
Yes.
sorry, am I talking to my wife or am I talking to you? She can hear me in earshot right now. Okay, moving off of Ops Mike
Mm.
because
Yep.
that I don't want to hear any more of that from you, even though I'm sure that one or two more will come. But again, just on that point, just marvel at your ability to keep up with it. But like you said, the real theme there is that allowed you to do that, allowed you to grow out of that and have more sanity and control and balance, maybe, and where your accountability personally and professionally needs to be now is again that lieutenant layer of strong senior support, strong department managers, account managers that you could put the accountability on for the optics of clients and for stuff so that you again could focus on visionary and stuff that a president of a digital marketing agency is supposed to do, because that's where also a lot of owners suffer is the burnout is just too much on their plate, too much travel, too much speaking from the stage, and then everything in client management and everything else. And that's why a lot of owner operators are very tired as the battery runs a little bit thin, right?
I do. Yeah, you definitely need to learn how to let go of the vine. I think this is whatever position you're in, that needs to happen, and you don't get better until you're able to do that. It also allowed me to be off for 4 months after I had my son, and so, to come back to everything working so smoothly and everything had gone so well, it's having just strong people in place that you can rely on, and I think whether you're the founder, whether you're in ops, whatever position you're in, if you need somebody to rely on to help you get through and that you're able to then focus on other things. So, yeah,
Well, and it's also, again, you're never going to take a compliment. You're never going to give yourself the rub, but it's a credit to your management leadership approach, because again, for someone like you to rightfully take a, proportionate mat leave and how you chose to do it. But think, again, you're the figurehead of the agency, you're the ops leader. And then it's like, I'm gone. And,
I'm
and
gone.
and again, like, please don't bother me because I've got my attention elsewhere, and rightfully so, with your beautiful baby boy. But you built processes and systems and
Hmm.
checks and balances, and gave people autonomy to make decisions so that you could step away. And I remember even saying to you before your pregnancy came to term, I saying, like, I don't think you're going to come back. And that wasn't an attack on Jason, that wasn't an attack on ops life. I just thought, it's going to be hard to re-inject yourself, and then obviously motherhood and perspective and distance and stuff. And you came back, and I'm like, how is it, typical Mike here, I'm like, how's the dumpster fire? And you're like, and I'm sitting there drowning in a dumpster fire because the dumpster fire's in my head, and you're just like, everything's great, everything was perfect while I was gone, back at it. I'm like, ah. So I tried to send notes to Jason just to stir him up and be like, "Hey, Jason, just saw Denise. She's happy without Blue Ocean. She's not coming back. Talk to you later." But I think I had the wrong cell phone number. Didn't reply.
He never replied. Me, I was still, and I wasn't like I was like gone cold turkey. I mean, I checked in on as needed, of course, and had some meetings here and there. I think having things well lined up before having those systems in place, and this isn't something that just came from Mat Leave, right? I mean, we're systems people, we're processes. Having as much you can systematized, having as much as you can outlined in processes, it leads a lot of takes a lot of guesswork out of everything. And I know that's a huge theme, not even just with us, but with the whole network this maybe upcoming year, but kind of having them as much as we can systematized um, goes a long way.
I definitely think that's one of your absolute standouts is,
Oh, it's not just
process.
me.
No,
You
but
have stop saying nice things about me, but
process building, and excuse me, like,
sure.
you've shown me your teamwork setup, and other things like that, and it's very impressive. And that's why, again, you can remove a piece or remove yourself, and the machine can keep moving forward versus being dependent on people. Again, going back to us, that is what teaches you cannot depend on people. You have seats and you have processes, but the people element has to be replaceable, because we're in a business where there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
changing in the digital sector, moving and going. And we've dealt with that, you and I, a lot over the last couple of years, just because that's the nature of the beast. And you can't be like, I have this person and they're everything. That is a very dangerous situation to have for small agency business. So you have, again, the process has to be the machine, and the people are just there to be able to move the levers based on the architecture that you've built.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, yeah, I mean, I love my whole team and I would be very, but you can't have everything blow up if somebody leaves. So that's having nothing can be all just stored in one person's brain, right? So there has to be things documented. There has to be systems in place. There has to be these things because people sadly change. And that's just the reality of our industry. I guess of any industry probably. And so, yeah.
But even so, more so with ours, like, there's just a digital, there's a lot of moving. You even mentioned at the beginning, like, on my 17 years, like, loyalty or tenure or whatever is not common in today's workplace. It really is kind of an almost like a legacy generation concept, versus today. But we both see a lot of people move and go. Even if you
Mhm.
just watch LinkedIn groups that are relatable to us and stuff, moving and shaking, coming and going. I'm here, I'm there, I'm starting here, I'm starting there. So again, to your point, like, the tip for people listening and others that are trying to grow teams, like I said, Denise has got a dense team of 16 full-time workers. WSI Commandex, we're a total about 7 or 8. My point simply being is that, you have to build the process and systems to allow for change of people, in the ebbs and flows year to year, or what the business needs, downsizing, growth, whatever factors hit you. And if you're focused on people solving all the points, then you're going to have the oh shit moment, eventually, versus just, okay, how do I move a piece, unplug one and plug in another one. That's how you have to look at kind of operation side of fulfillment. Okay, so what do you, the Denise now, in what you're doing and what you focus on, what do you love about ops? Because as much as you're a president, and like you said, there's more of a visionary hat in your transition, you're still an ops lady. You're always going to be, just in your own way. What do you love about ops?
Hmm.
Not much, because ops sucks.
Crickets, crickets. I so you had mentioned, like, I'm big on processes and systems. I really like when things, work out. Like, I enjoy when you can, um, like, look at things and look at, your profitability margins, and look at, how things can get streamlined to increase different, or I'm leaning more into the money, into more of the money accounting side of the business, and, like, looking into, where are more profitable services, and where can we do this? How can we change this, and how does that impact, the bottom line on different things? And so that piece of ops is becoming more and more fun for me and enjoyable, like looking into, just,
It's a
I guess,
challenge.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
targets, but it's also a challenge, saying like, look, operational fulfillment is always start and finish, right? Is like setup, management, process, done, bill. But you and I now, in our respective roles, it's looking at the P&L. It's
very
identifying
much.
gaps where we're bleeding. Like you said, what services do we discontinue? Which ones are not priced correctly? How do you keep the team operationally profitable, within what you want to achieve, without just bleeding like so many agencies do? But like, that's the challenge, right? And it's a
That's the
never ending
challenge.
challenge, because as soon as you plug, I call it like plug one gap, another one bursts over here, and then you got to focus on that. But there's also a creative side to it, so it's not, you change your ops mentality, but the creativity, the problem solving stuff is, but now it's very much data. And then, like I
Mhm.
said, the next layer is systems. And then it's being able to track it and be accountable to it, to see where the
To
true thing
see.
is. And if you do hit those targets, or you do get the check mark saying we accomplished that, there's the reward, right?
Because I don't think I'm an expert enough in anything anymore to be able to implement, a rollout, or, if we're gonna implement new products or try out new softwares, I don't know enough about individual services anymore to be able to effectively do that. I'm not the right person to be doing that. And so I've also just recognized that that's no longer my strength, and to not be involved in that, and that's why we have smart people on our team to do that, and I can focus more on what I have now enjoyed, and also kind of what is I'm now strong at, which is more on the money side, and tying that into services, into accounts, into all of those efficiencies. So that's kind of where I've seen the biggest shift in that, and that's okay. It was a little bit of a pride thing to go, I don't know what we talk about half the time anymore, but that's okay. I don't need to. And so it's been a shift.
Well, and again, I think it plays into like you said, something that you're enamored with, or something that you like, and something that you're good at, whether it's in your DNA, whether it's your school education, whether it's just your experiences from going from account manager to now, is, and one thing I keep saying about, processes and so forth, but I think you say, money, but you're very good on the data side. I have learned a lot
Numbers
from you in the
person.
last few years, because that's not where I'm strong. Coming from the more operational, technical side, never been strong. I've learned a lot, in the last couple of years, from my Peter and others, but I've bounced things off of you, and just things that you'll say that like shake me to the core, to make me think a different way, or how do we solve a problem with math, or how do we improve this? And is that something you've always loved, or is it just a natural evolution of knowing that this is where I got to double down? Because it really is something I think it's important to say, that kind of showcases you, because WSI head office has had you on the grand stage at conventions to speak about the data side, profitability, metrics. They've had you on talking about other aspects that really tailor around operational success, or how to manage the books and whatnot. And you go up there and you just bang it out. And I'm sitting there going like, is she like a mathematician or something? But like, is this always something you've been strong at or just had a passion for?
To an extent, like, I've always liked numbers and data and, even processes in that way, but financial education was never something that I had a lot of history on. Like, I've gone had some, schooling around basic accounting, but I think being forced to learn a lot of this stuff, just the nature of the role, and then just really, really enjoying it. And so, I'm still learning a lot, and there's always still I always feel like, I maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome, like, I don't know very, about the accounting side of the business, but I think that's really common for a lot of business owners or a lot of,
Yes.
we have a general understanding of books and how your P&L works and things like that. But I think people are less. I don't know if everybody is as well versed as I think I thought they were. And so it's been just having the confidence to have these kind of conversations. And it's just been realizing that, oh, I'm not alone in this. I think a lot of people in similar roles or founders roles, like, they're not accountants. This isn't their first, um, what they went to school for. They're not, the most well versed as I thought they would have been. And so that sense, I guess there's some comfort in that, and just bouncing ideas back and forth, and just learning that way, kind of through doing it. I know another friend of ours was asking, how did you start to learn about, as you moved into this role, how did you start learning about accounting and the books? And it's just a lot of trial by error, or figure things out. Or, I mean, yes, you
But
can.
that's the key, right? There is no playbook. You're
There is
you're
no playbook.
depending on your owners to share how far they could take it and how they see it.
Sure.
Your own research or education, WSI masterminds, other people you respect to be able to confidently, with trust or privacy, to share numbers that typically you wouldn't.
Well, that's the hard
But
part. It's
also,
sensitive too, right? So not everyone's always the
of
most
course, it
open to
is.
talking about this kind of thing. So not everyone wants to talk about what their net profit, gross profit is, and or your revenue per client. Like, not everyone wants to share all of that. And so, thankfully,
Unless
I
you're
think we
Neil
have a
Lappy.
really well, I was gonna say, thankfully, we have people like Neil Lappy who facilitate groups, though, and have these benchmarking groups that can help you give a guideline. Because I was like, I didn't know what to look for before, working with Neil on some of this stuff. Like, I wouldn't have known some of these things, and he showed a lot of these metrics to be following and calculating, and I've really just taken that in stride. And so,
The key is trial
thankfully,
and, the key, which you said very humbly, is trial and error. You're not
yeah,
perfect at it. You've made mistakes, but
yeah,
each mistake is growth. You refined how you look at things, and now the Denise of 2 years ago, a mistake she made of X, now knows how to attack Y, and that's this, because again, right, a small business has accountants or bookkeepers, but they're not day to day, and they're going to come and go with receipts and file stuff at the end of the month or whatever. And we don't have necessarily that appointed person anymore on a salary, just sitting there all day like the old days of corporate life. So operation leaders or chief operating officers or presidents, you have to be able to look at the data and
you do.
look at the finances for the protection of it. Because if you're just running roughshod at the end of the year and saying, hope we did well, that's not going to jive. And then
It's
you
not
put
going to work,
EOS on
right?
top of it. It's a whole other animal of getting much more black and white and granular, so that you can benchmark and actually say, uh-oh, versus, riding by the seat of your pants.
And I think that's the biggest thing, and it's always come back to it. I mean, this has been a topic for a long, long time too, about tracking, but how will you have any idea how profitable you are, where to price things at, right? I mean, it's having all of that data available to you, and so that you're not waiting at the end of the year going, "Well, let's hope we made some money." Like, it's making sure that whenever you are quoting anything, is that you're guaranteeing you'll have certain margins in place. And that can be easily overlooked, and it has been overlooked, and so that's something continue to try and fine tune.
Well, I always message you on WhatsApp after you present on screen, because most of the time I see you is virtual, based on logistics, and obviously the different themes were connected with WSI. And I always say you kicked ass. You're like, oh, it was terrible, which it's not. Yeah, you're
You're
your own
kind.
worst critic, but
You're a lot
I've
nicer
seen
to
you.
me than I am to you.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a common theme with women in my life. I talk to Christina and Emily and my wife Melissa and basically anybody else that's female in the entire North America. But no, but I'm not gonna pump your brakes and fill your head full of air if I don't mean it. I mean that truthfully. Is just you have been up there on big stages of WSI, and that's really where I've seen you. But you command the room and people listen. And I'm in a lot of masterminds, and I'm in multiple masterminds, and I talk to a lot of people with my tenure, and they're always saying, that Denise Bowen, she is a sharp cookie. So there's a lot of people that admire and look up to you in a way of how you've been able to be successful, what you give back. Hence, pretty nice milestone here to get the 2025 Q4 Top Contributor Award, which is given to a specific person in the WSI ecosystem based on what they give back, whether that's in Work Vivo, whether that's presentations, convention committee, panels of insights and experience sharing. And you just received this as of last Thursday while you were on
Yeah.
holidays.
Yeah, very, very honored. That was very nice. So I know a lot of people, this network's all about giving back, and lots of people do. So very honored to be recognized for that.
Yeah, well, you deserve it, and you may not be the loudest person in the room. I take that, title, but you do give a lot, and when you give, there is tremendous insight and takeaways from that versus just let me put to a presentation and who gives a shit, especially on, again, the data, business management, P&L, all those important things. I
For
really
sure.
hope that you would get a keynote at some point in your career if that's something you're comfortable doing, because I think giving you a more dedicated platform of time to really drive that message home versus something that's 20 or 30 minutes could be very beneficial to the up and comers in our network. And you're doing it at scale, like I said, in the top 3 agency, in the sense of revenue for the network. So
That's nice.
I'll
And
expect your royalty check of compliments, or Kyle can sit there and go, what did you do to this man that he just wanted to praise you
right,
for 5 minutes?
right,
Should I be worried
right.
about him? Like, Kyle, bro, what's up? Okay.
No, that's very nice of you. Thank you. And if there's ever an opportunity to do more presentations, at least we know we have tools now that won't take us 29 hours to make slides like it used to. So
We didn't even scratch the surface on that stuff, and we're not.
I know.
I want to ask you one more question before we start wrapping up here, because I got to get back to ops hell, and you've got a hungry, large, smiling toddler that probably wants mom. He is a
He's
stunning
large.
representation of you and Kyle. By the way, I have every photo you post on your private channels. That kid is smiling. He is
The
going to
happy kid.
be a heartthrob whenever he gets to that time with that look. I'm telling you. But the question I have for you is, okay, I asked you what do you like about ops.
Yeah.
Now, because this is the angry ops guy, we got to spew a little bit of venom.
No.
What do you fucking hate about ops?
Great question. Uh, you know, maybe it's not so much ops, but it's got to be our like things can't just stay the same for a split second. As soon as I feel like we have something down, as much as it maybe looks like we have our stuff together, our stuff, like packages, pricing, it changes fucking constantly. And I feel like we just can't keep anything consistent because so much changes. And so I think just that alone is the most frustrating thing. It's not like you can just do, an annual evaluation of looking where things are at because it changes way too much. And so just the pace at which things change, and I think it's only getting worse, and it's annoying as hell.
Ops annoying hell. I should have set you up better. I should have said, what do you fucking hate in ops other than our pumpkin size head friend Jack Porter Smith? But you know, we all know that you and I,
Pumpkin size that.
me and you know we despise him, and he's a jerk, but we love him, and he's the third head of our conglomerate of ops leaders. And
You guys are so mean to each other. I don't understand male humor at all. I don't get it. Like, we're in this
what are you
group
talking about?
chat
You sent
and
me that separate WhatsApp message. Said Jack's a real, you know what, and his head looks like it's
right,
getting bigger every day. And he
because that
snapped the
sounds like
chair when
me.
he snapped the chair on
That
my last video conference with him, and then he was eating at a
yes,
buffet. Like,
that sounds just like me. I don't get it. I
yeah,
I
that's it.
don't.
Was all you. No, that was
It
just
was
me
all
and
me.
Jack talking yesterday when I said, "Hey, buddy, how are you?" And he's like, "You're fat." I'm like, "I know." Oh,
I love
Jackie
it.
boy, we love you. We miss you. And yeah, Denise is way nicer to you than I am, and I don't care. So.
Yes, that's true.
But before we wrap up here, and my last couple of takeaways, I know you're not a huge social media person,
No.
but obviously you're on LinkedIn. So if anybody in the WSI network or in ops just wishes to connect with you or whatever, where can they find you?
let's do it on LinkedIn. I have no idea what my handle would be there. Denise Bowen, search that. I think I last made an update 18 months ago, so you can really check that active activity. I am the worst. I am not a social media person for the purpose of business promotion, but that's okay.
I'm
It's
kind
not
of the
for everyone.
same. I'm starting to de-emphasize it a lot as I get older, just for my own mental health. Like, I terminated my Twitter account yesterday. I haven't touched it in 24 months, but
Ooh,
I'm like,
dangerous place. Yeah,
delete. And I was like, what a rewarding feeling. Now, if I could just do that to Facebook and I could do
I've
that
done
to
it to Facebook.
Instagram, it would be like my life would be whole again. But we'll get there in a couple of years.
Yeah, I've deleted the yeah, I just it doesn't serve me, and I, can appreciate when people can utilize it for business, and I think some people do a fantastic job at it. I do not, so I just recognize that and don't even try. But by all means, if you would like to go follow my inactive LinkedIn profile, let's do that. Otherwise, we're
Otherwise, you'll find her at convention when she's in her
sure,
next
you
speaking
definitely will
engagement.
find me at
You'll find
convention.
her on Work Vivo. You'll find her on
Yes,
WSI Open Forums with her thought leadership and panels and so forth. So definitely make sure you keep an eye for Denise Bowen. Lots to learn, lots to give, and a really good asset to people that want to continue to grow their WSI franchise and learn from one of the best. So Denise, I wanted to just say I want to just plug before I
sorry.
plug my little handles here to wrap up like we always do. I just wanted to say, I know I asked you about this months ago when I kind of put a pin in it for a bit, and you're like, really? But I was so excited when you kind of said, yes, let's do it. But I wanted to honestly just first off, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and insights. And I don't know why you adopted me as a friend 6 years ago, but one of the best pieces of my career is to earn your friendship over the last couple of years. And like I said, you're my two-headed monster and one of those people I cherish. So thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for being you, Wonder Woman.
Always happy to support you, buddy. It's always fun when we get to get together.
All right. Well, Denise has got to go feed a hungry child, and this hungry fat child over here needs to go eat too. So you can find us Angry Ops Guy _ WSI. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, and what else are we on, Mike? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's the end of the day. So we'll be back with more guests, and Ops Mike out. Thanks, buddy.
Sorry, Ops Mike, your email went to junk.